to me. Many challenges that burden me. My heart center shines and calls to me. This is who I choose to be. Sometimes lessons.
Welcome to the Vibrational Alchemy Podcast. This is Penny Fisher, and we are so glad you are joining us for this week's episode. Hello, beautiful souls. What a gift to have you with us today for this episode. So honored that you're here as always. And I hope you're all doing okay. I don't know about you, but there have been some crazy energies out there that are, I don't know about anybody else, but they're knocking me for a loop. And a lot of people that I talk to are feeling, how are we feeling? We're feeling fuzzy, right? We're feeling sluggish. I'm experiencing like a lot of resistance. I know there have been a lot of solar storms, a lot of solar flares, and personally, I have discovered over time that those things really rock my boat. So I don't know if it's some of that. And what I'm reading and what I'm hearing is that this is all part of this big download of energy as we're heading into what is really a whole new age, this Aquarian age. So just know I'm thinking about you, and I hope that you're navigating this with balance and ease. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about how we can do that today. And I want to talk about two different ways that we put our energy out into the world, right? Um, I want to talk about being the bomb, like the bomb that blows things up. And I want to talk about being the balm, like the salve or the healing lotion that you would put on a wound. Okay, so we're going to talk about those two things and some things that we can do to shift from being the balm to being the soothing balm, because not only does that help the energies around us and other people, but it will profoundly shift things for us internally, right? So this crazy energy that we're experiencing is this deep purging, right? It's a transformation, a transmutation of these heavy energies that are associated with old paradigms, right? The old patriarchal systems that have really dictated to us the way that the world, that life, that this human experience is, and I'm air quoting, supposed to be. And we're not getting rid of any of that, right? Because as we know, energy never dies, it just takes on a different form. So we're really allowing all of these old wounds, old identities, old structures to be infused with love, be infused with light, and this will help them to come back into alignment with who we really are, which is love, our beautiful divine blueprint, right? So that can sound really exciting. And then we get to go through it. And going through it can really feel heavy. It can, at least for me, I feel incredibly off balance because when we release what we've always been, what we've always known, who we've always thought we were, who we thought we needed to be in order to be loved, we're left wondering, well, if I'm not that, if I'm not I was just talking to somebody about this morning, if I'm not the people pleaser, then who am I? Right? So we feel untethered. We feel insecure. We feel uncertain. And these feelings are really uncomfortable and we don't like it. So it's really easy to go running back over to, as my husband's grandmother used to say, to the way it used to was, right? And we stay in those old places. But the energies right now, the universe is kicking our patooties to say, no, you're not allowed to go back over there anymore. You need to sit with this. Now, as we sit with those heavy energies, we have been trained to act on them. We have been trained when we're feeling angry about something, we have to do something about that anger, right? And my friend Christine says, if we're not careful, the anger comes out sideways. And what she means by that is that the anger can be directed at someone or something that isn't actually really the root cause. Okay. And we know from the work that we've done together through these podcasts, if you've been checking out the TikTok videos, my daily gratitude journal, those are on TikTok, they're on Insta, they're on Facebook. You know that I talk a lot about the reality of the world of quantum physics. And I want to just revisit that really quickly for a minute because I think it's critical to what we're talking about today. In the world of the tiny, in the subatomic world, everything vibrates. And at least my parents used to tell me that opposites attract, and they were wrong, right? Because the way that things vibrate actually attracts other experiences to them that vibrate at the same rate. Okay. And the way that those other people, experiences, opportunities, abundance, the way that it knows to flow towards you is that your energy, your vibrational resonance ripples out into the world. Like when you drop a pebble in the pond and the waves, the little, even if they're little teeny waves, they ripple out into the pond. Your energy flows out into the world. And so we have to be careful for two reasons. First of all, because when we send out a high vibration, our energy, our vibration actually helps others by inviting them to match, or we say entrain with our energy. And the other reason is because what we're sending out is what we're going to get back. So if I'm angry and I send that energy out into the world, guess what's going to come back at me? People who are angry, situations fueled by anger, experiences anchored in anger, right? And there's a lot of that going on in the collective right now. And so we want to be good stewards. Let's put it that way. We want to be good stewards of our vibrational signature, right? I I think that when we are able to manage these heavy emotions skillfully, we are actually able to bring healing not only to ourselves, but the potential for healing out into the world. But when we don't, when we go with the old paradigmatic instruction to act on that anger and to send it out into the world, we become the bomb. Our energy, we send it out into the world. It explodes outward. Like we've seen the images of like a nuclear explosion, right? And sometimes we will justify this. How could that person have done that? I'm going to a protest rally. I'm going to have a conversation with somebody I trust and who sees the world the way that I do about how people shouldn't and what they're doing is wrong. And I stay in that place of anger and I stay in that place of judgment. And while all of those feelings of anger and frustration might be a very reasonable response to what's happening around us, the more that we send our response, our angry, frustrated, judgmental response out into the world, the more we actually feed that which we wish would would transform into love, right? So here's a really, and I've shared this before, I'm sure, but here's a really simple but profoundly powerful example. Okay. I my whole life, my whole married life, my husband, my partner, has always wanted to move to Florida when we retired. Always. And I have always said, not for me, not so much. And over the years, we've talked about it and we've discussed it. And somewhere in the conversation, I have always managed to state the following. If we were to retire to Florida, there are 3 places I will never go. I will never go to Central Florida. I will never live in one of those communities where the houses all look the same and they're right next to each other. And I will never, ever live in an over 55 community. Listen, I'm a retired elementary teacher. I like little kids. I like young people. I don't want over 55. Well, my friends, guess where I live. That is exactly where I live now. And we were led here, and I know it's the right place. But I share this with you to illustrate that when we give something energy, that's what comes back to us. And remember, the universe doesn't hear negative. So when I said, I don't want that, the universe heard, I want that. And that's what it brought me, because that's how vibration works. So we need to be careful about what we're focusing on. When we focus on that which we don't want, even if we're doing something in protest or to try to change something or fix something or make something better, we are actually feeding it our energy and we are fueling, we are arming our bomb. We are arming our bomb with all of the emotions that are causing us to push back. We're arming it with fear, with grief, with judgment, with frustration. And just like that powerful explosion we talked about, we send it out into the world. And it has a profound effect, whether we're aware of it or not. Here's the flip side of that coin. And I had to learn this the hard way too in my own journey. The flip side of that coin is that we are allowed to have those heavy emotions. We are allowed to be afraid. We are allowed to be angry. We are allowed to be enraged or grief-stricken. We are allowed to be frustrated and confused. Like these are all part of our human experience. The heavy emotions in and of themselves are not bad. They'll actually help us, as we'll see in a little bit here. But if we stuff those emotions down and we don't acknowledge them, they literally get stuck in our physical bodies. It starts by getting stuck out in our energetic field, in our biofield. Over time, it gets stuck in our bodies. It blocks up the flow of energy. And then we end up in places we don't want to be. We can end up with anxiety. We can end up with depression. I've been there. We ultimately end up with dis-ease, like our bodies start to not feel well, to be sick, to break down, right? And just real quick example, I have been dealing with an issue with my knee for months. And I was talking with my husband, with my partner, and he said to me, I said to him, it's been long enough now. I got to go to the doctor, get this taken care of. I need some physical therapy. Like I'm too young to be dealing with pain in my knee. And we started talking, and what the conversation brought me to was an awareness of some profoundly deep wounding that had happened for me when I was little. I mean, little. And the more we talked about it, the more I saw those patterns through my life, and I acknowledged it. I had a really good cry. My husband, who's an amazing healer himself, did some healing work, sent me some beautiful energy. And this all happened while we were out for a walk in an open air shopping mall on a Sunday morning. By the time we got back to the car, the pain was gone, right? Because I had not acknowledged those emotions. So every time something would come up where I needed to mask who I really was, I had to pretend to be somebody I wasn't in order to keep the peace or make people around me happy. I was stuffing those emotions down, and they got stuck in my knee. When I released them, the pain was gone. Now it's flared a time or two since then, but I know what it is now. And so I will work with that, right? But when I would stuff all those emotions, I was arming my bomb. And sure enough, it would come out sideways at somebody or something else. So I think the first thing that we have to do is we have to pay attention to where and when we are having those heavy emotions, and we need to have them. We need to allow ourselves to feel them. We need to allow ourselves to notice them. And the best advice I can give you, well, two pieces of advice I can give you that have helped me tremendously. The first is just to notice it, like you're watching a movie. Oh, I'm having anger right now. Oh, I'm having that experience of not being able to be myself. Oh, I'm having fear or frustration right now. Just watch it like it's happening on a screen and you're just observing it. And then the second piece of advice that I got years ago from my first teacher, and it changed my life. She said to me, well, when you're angry, you don't have to act on it. I was like, come again? I don't understand what you just said. Because if I am willing to sit with it, then I can ask that emotion, that feeling, what it's here to teach me. Because this is where, at least for me, the really, really hard work comes in. And the hard work is acknowledging and owning that whatever has triggered my bomb, right, whatever has lit the fuse on my bomb out there, is never about the person or the experience that triggered me. It's always about a place where I'm holding that emotion directed at myself. It's always about a place where I am judging myself or angry at myself or scared about something that I might say or do out in the world because I don't want to be that. When we are willing to look at that and sit with it and own it, then we can start to discharge the energy that we've packed into the bomb, and we can actually let the fuse fizzle out before it reaches the ignition point, right? And that's what we want. And we do that, and you all know this, we do this by simply sitting and breathing. We breathe, we are the neutral observer, We stay in a place of curiosity and ask, what are you here to teach me? And as we do that, my friends, we move from being the explosive, potentially destructive bomb to being the balm, the soothing, comforting experience of love. And it's got to start with being the balm for ourselves. So when we are willing to sit and acknowledge our pain and acknowledge our frustration, when we are willing to tap into those places of trauma or wounding, and if in my experience with clients, it's usually from childhood, but not always, right? When we are willing to invite in the flow of unconditional love from the cosmic matrix, we become the balm, the soothing salve. And the salve goes on not to cover anything up or to get rid of it, but to give it time to heal. And here's the thing, my friends, when we are sitting in that place of intense frustration, anger, grief, fear, whatever, embarrassment, right? Jealousy, whatever it is we're doing, when we're sitting in that place, our default, the way we've been trained, is to head right to our minds. And I am telling you, this is not the time. This is not the time for rational analytic thinking. This is not the time to try to make sense of anything and I am the queen of this, because what happens is when we try to make sense of it from a rational place, we numb ourselves. We numb ourselves to the uncomfortable feeling. So going to the mind, it makes life so much easier. And especially if you're somebody who thrives on that kind of interaction with the physical world or the emotional world. It's really easy, but it numbs us because now we're in the head, not in the heart. So I would invite you in this space now. You have this feeling, you notice that you want to be the balm and just send those ripples of anger and frustration and judgment out into the world, but instead you choose to breathe. You choose to allow yourself to feel the fullness of the emotion, no matter how sucky it is. You allow yourself to watch yourself having this emotion because you're not that anger. You're not that fear. You're having the experience. And you breathe. And when you start to rationalize, when you start to explain it to yourself, when you go into that internal conversation that starts to justify or blame or whatever it is you typically do, just breathe and say thank you and just let it go, because we've got to feel our way into this. We've got to allow ourselves to feel raw, to feel vulnerable, to feel the full force of the pain. And it helps me at least to remember that, as my friend Sam says, the pain is just a gift that comes wrapped in a way we really would rather it didn't. I'd rather have the lesson some other way, but sometimes this is how it shows up. Because when we are willing to allow all of that, the love of God, source, creator, creatrix, all that is, acts as kind of this almost like an antiseptic. And it clears out the infection and leaves nothing but love. And when there's love, the pain isn't there. When we're willing to accept the unconditional compassion and love from the flow of the cosmic matrix, as we allow ourselves to be saturated every cell, every particle of our being just saturated and infused with this, then that heavy vibration of fear or anger or frustration or judgment or blame or the need to punish someone, it will actually transform and remember what it really is, which is love. And that's all it's ever been. That's all it is, and that's all it ever will be. So whether you do this now, and if you are driving or walking or doing something that requires your attention, you might want to pause the podcast here or just let this flow through you. Don't engage right now. But I would invite you, whether you do this now or at another time, to bring up an emotion that twists your guts, twists your insides. It can be something that happened a long time ago, something that happened today, doesn't matter. And as you feel the contraction in your body, just allow yourself to either soften your gaze or close your eyes and breathe. Slow your breathing and allow your breath in and out of your nose to drop you into your sacred heart space. And just do that for as long as you need until you feel yourself settled in that beautiful space, this beautiful sacred chamber of your heart. And you just rest here for a few breaths. And when you feel ready, you ask whatever has come up for you, if it's got something to teach you, and just wait. You may have an image, you may have a memory, you may have words, you may have another feeling in your body, you may see color. I have several clients who will hear song lyrics, whatever it is, and you may get nothing. Just trust it and sit with it and feel it. And then ask this flow of the cosmic matrix to transform this energy into the vibration of unconditional love. Open your heart and let the flow of this beautiful river of unconditional love flow right into your heart space. Just see how it presents. I usually see it as a flow of rainbow light, rainbow colored light, sparkly, beautiful. You may see it totally differently. You may be invited to just sit in your sacred heart space and let it flood whatever this emotion is, this vibration is. Or you may feel guided to just step into the river and lie on your back and let yourself float and be infused that way. And stay with it for as long as it feels right for you. Breathing and just allowing. And whenever you feel like the work is done, just begin to feel the air on your skin and the weight of your body on your chair or the couch or the floor, wherever you happen to be. Feel the air coming in and out of your nose, maybe wiggle fingers and toes. And know that in that time, you have become the balm, the soothing flow of unconditional love. You have become that. As you experience this flow of love, your vibration shifts. And do you see the brilliance of this? You haven't ignored the heavy stuff. You haven't shoved it down. You haven't put a lid on it. You haven't pretended that everything's okay. You haven't put on your big girl or big boy pants. You haven't been tough. You've allowed all of it. You've been fully present with it. You've felt it. You've honored it. And you have alchemized it. You have alchemized it from fear into love. And now the balm, the soothing, loving energy will also flow out into the world. but not with the explosive and intrusive and angry force of the bomb. The power of your love for yourself, the power of your willingness to do the hard work, to do the deep and heavy work, will flow out into the world and invite others to make that shift. Now, whether they make the shift or not is not up to you. It's not your job to fix anyone. But what you have done is you have made a choice. You have chosen who you wish to be, like our opening and closing music says. You can be the bomb, or you can be the balm of unconditional love. And as I'm talking to you, I'm getting a nudge from my own guides to remind you all that if you need more support as you're working through some of these heavy things, please don't hesitate to find a professional, a therapist, someone who works with energy, a trusted friend. It helps to have a village. And if it's a village of one or a village of two, even that can really help. So I'm just hearing this so clearly, I can't ignore it. Please, 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 if you are working through heavy and deep things and you feel the need for support, don't hesitate to reach out to people who can help you. Okay? Because that's powerful stuff too. And those are people who can activate the flow of balm within you. Okay. And as we said before, full disclosure, my darlings, this is hard work. You are undoing literally lifetimes of conditioning, lifetimes of being told over and over again that you are a victim, lifetimes of acculturation that has taught you to blame and punish yourself, and therefore we blame and punish others. And we're going to talk more about this next week when we talk about how we externalize all of this. But I promise you, having been there, that if you are willing to do this work, and it takes time, so be gentle with yourself, little at a time, you'll get better at it. More and more, it will become your default setting. It will become the way that you approach these heavy feelings. You'll catch yourself, you'll hear yourself being the bomb and sending that heavy energy out into the world at someone else. And you'll say, oh, that really isn't about that other person. That isn't about the person who broke my mother's spice jar. I'm not really angry with that person. There's some woundedness inside of me that needs to be loved. And little by little, that will become your default setting. Little by little, you will learn almost without thought to drop into your sacred heart space, to invite in the flow of the cosmic matrix. And what happens as we do this is that even though the uncomfortable stuff continues to flow, we are able to navigate it so skillfully that it comes and goes almost without us noticing it. And this is when we know we are navigating our lives with more balance and ease. We are navigating our lives from the place of the reality of who we are, of who each one of you are. Beautiful, divine, perfect beings of pure love and the pure light of Source. And this is, my darlings, how Source sees you, because it's who you are. It's who you've always been, and it's who you will always be. I am so incredibly and deeply grateful to each one of you for joining me. I am Penny Starhart. This has been the Vibrational Alchemy Podcast. And until we are together again next week, remember, you are loved and you are love.
This is who I to